or to this computer. Hello, everybody. Today is April 28th, 2026, and this is the Operator Framework Working Group OLM Dev meeting. We do not have a lot of items on the agenda. Jordan, why are you putting it under the template?
Because I'm going to copy paste it.
We already have the agenda items already down there. So
No. I mean the item.
so okay. I'm going to pull up the document so we can all see what we're talking about. Share. And I want to share this. So I hope that's right. Yep. Okay, there we are. Okay. Again, today's April 28th. I'm the host, Todd Short. Um, Briefs and RFCs under review. Do we have any briefs or RFCs under review? Oh, it looks like Ankita is putting one in now. It is a brief, apparently. Well, we'll get back to that.
Move on,
Uh,
cycle back.
yes, that's what I was about to say. Old action items checkpoint. Well, I don't think we have any. We don't have any demos. Discussion topics. We have Jordan, who has a bug in release version SQL-like code. There's apparently a PR outstanding for it. Would you like to talk about that?
Yeah, so it was a few months ago we added the capability to express the idea of a release version in FBC catalogs. We had an alpha feature for SQLite catalogs that fulfilled this particular role, but it was kind of kludgy. We never progressed it from alpha. It had a limited amount of feedback, which was enough to say we understood well that this was a thing that users of our libraries wanted and generators of catalogs wanted, but they didn't necessarily like the way this was being done. And when we implemented FBC back in the day, we did not provide an analog feature for this. So anyway, we implemented this a few months ago now. I think it was the beginning of the year. And for folks not familiar with the operator registry repository, sometimes it can be a little unclear in there whether you're in code that is exclusively SQLite legacy catalog format related, something that is exclusively FBC catalog related, or something that is shared across the two. You wouldn't necessarily think that the latter common case would be common, but it turns out it shows up just enough to be problematic. And when we implemented it, we ran into this issue. Now, a little backstory here. Normally, our approach here is that we do end-to-end test cases that evaluate the full use case for a feature. We did not do that for this feature because the SQLite functionality has been deprecated for 4 years, and we deliberately do not want to add any features there. We do not want to change the support claims or capabilities there in any way. And so we lacked a full life cycle of creating a legacy catalog format through the iterative addition of versioned bundles and then converting that catalog to FBC, because that's, like I said, outside of the purview and our functional claims. But because we didn't do that, we ran into a bug. And part of our implementation was in this shared common area. This PR is designed to remove that specific section of the code and replace that functionality with code that is strictly only in the FBC related capabilities. So I'd love to get some reviews for that started and get some feedback. I guess one additional note I will make on that is when fixing this case, we know we have to get the code out of the SQLite legacy catalog code area because it's just outside of our purview. Fine. But the second part is, do we want to automatically interpret, like, try not to go too far back into the weeds, but I've got to go back into the weeds a little more, right? So this alpha feature that I talked about relied on an annotation on the bundle called substitutes for, and the encoding of a release version as Semver build metadata. And if you're familiar with Semver, build metadata is never to be used for ordering. But if the alpha flag was enabled in the tooling, and if the substitutes for annotation was present, and if the bundle metadata versioning was present, then we would automatically derive a release version of the bundle internally. So the first part of this PR is to take out the problematic bit. The second commit in the PR is to add in conversion if we encounter that set of circumstances, to do the formal interpretation of the release version from build metadata. I set it up as two different commits because I think that there's some area for conversation perhaps on whether we want to automatically do that. One reasonable fallback is whenever we're doing an FBC to FBC transform, we leave it exactly as we found it and don't interpret things. But I leave that kind of up for discussion. So lots of info in the PR description, including everything I've said here. If there are questions, comments, and whatnot, please throw them there. We'll talk.
Thank you, Jordan. Okay, we're going to go take a few steps back. Recent RFCs under review. There is an RFC for direct bundle installation by Ankita, with a targeted review completion date by the end of this week, which would be May 1st, 2026. Ankita, did you want to add anything to that?
The direct bundle out of installation RFC is limited to just being able to install from bundle images. So if folks want to take a look at that, um, it would be great. It has been open for a while, and I've gotten quite a few comments that have already been sort of resolved by now. So this is sort of a final PSA if anyone wants to take a look. I'd really appreciate feedback. Yeah, thanks, Todd.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, if there are no other discussion topics or RFCs to quickly talk about, let's go to the roadmap. So I'm going to shrink this up a little bit so that we can see it better. Or at least I hope you'll be able to see it better. Okay, where shall we start? Let's look at no status, epic, add retry limits, and new reason to the progressing status condition that is present when retry limit is reached. I'm assuming that has not been started.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that one.
Yeah, it's 18 months old.
Oh, yeah, yeah. No, this one is. So I thought it might be related to our recent implementation of Box Cutter and
Nope.
phased installs, but it's not. This is legacy, and I'm not even sure if it's still valid.
Okay. So we may want to review this and see if it makes sense. Yeah, there was a life cycle change about a year ago, a little like 10 months ago, where Joe froze it. So we may want to consider. Just comment on that. The other one is support for orphan deletion policy. Let's see, this was opened 2 years ago, and there was some comments from Rashmi. There is apparently a link for resource orphaning. That was the one by Anik, who is no longer on our team. I think what we basically said is we'll just deal with it in a Kubernetes method. I think that's what we said. So there's not really much for us to do here, I think.
Was this uh, was this RFC accepted
It
or
is
deferred?
deferred. I think he was proposing some mechanism, and then I think we had
Uh,
decided to just use standard Kubernetes mechanisms.
all right, so this is just basically doing the delete, but preserving resource orphaning.
Right. But there
Uh,
is a Kubernetes option to delete that allows you to the client delete to
So we might want to update this with that,
yeah.
with those changes, and then accept it if that's the plan.
Well, also Rashmi on the Epic itself in GitHub said, "Hey, we're going to do this thing, and we don't need to implement a thing
right.
because you can already do it." And yeah, and it does sound like her summary. Is she on the call? Because I don't want to put words in her mouth if she's here.
She is not.
Okay, so it sounds like from what I read here that the verdict on the RFC was, don't do a thing because there's already a mechanism. Don't worry about it. And so, yeah, I agree with Catherine. We just need to make sure that that message is clear on the RFC, and it sounds like we can just claim this one.
Close it, you mean?
Move it to done as opposed to just close it. Yeah,
How do I do that? Do I just drag it over?
yeah. Or yeah, I don't even know if that one shows up here. But throw it in needs docs for right now because we still have that action to go follow up on the RFC regardless.
Okay.
And if you want to give that to me, I'll take that. I'll take an action to go make sure that we've dotted our I's and crossed our T's and whatnot.
Yeah, okay. Native. I am unable to type today. Comment and who do we assign this to? Oh, look, you're right there. I don't have to search for you. Okay. Initial kubectl operator plugin updates for operator controller and catalog D. This again is roughly 18 months old.
Yeah, it has been kind of on pause ever since the initial sort of set of commands have been added for OLM v1 CRs. Uh, there have no been any updates to handle things like cluster extension revisions or similar. I think the latest that this was at was that it is able to at least list contents of a catalog. It's able to just create cluster extensions and cluster catalogs, and that's about the level of support that we have. We probably won't revisit what we're going to do with the kubectl operator plugin if that is the way that we want to proceed with our CLI story, or if we want to revamp it with something similar to what I believe Taylor was working on.
Okay. So I think at this point it's in the appropriate location, it sounds like to me.
Yeah, could you put a ping in here or call out to Taylor specifically in your comment that it may have some intersection with the work he's working on, since he's not on the call right now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, that is done with that column. Epic, add support for handling Helm charts. Again, this is roughly 2 years old, 22 months. Since you've broken down the smaller scope objectives, but still remains a concern as of earlier this year. Any changes in this?
So I've had limited cycles to be able to work on this, but I spent a little time last Friday looking at Camilla's really good high level brief that kind of says where we want to go, where we don't want to go. It's not, I didn't cycle back and update this issue with that information, but I was trying to understand that domain. So my hope is that either Camilla or I will make some updates to this epic in a relatively near-term future to make it a little more clear. But right now, I got nothing.
Okay, so why don't we just leave it as is? Because, yep, okay. Epic support for direct bundle installation. Hey, Ankita, you were just talking about this, and you put in your RFC, and we shall, how about we assign it to Ankita? Because you are designing it. That sound okay?
Sounds good. Yeah.
Okay, so we have an assignee on that one now. So there is an RFC for that. Outstanding. It was, oops, that's the wrong one. This one. It is listed right here for those who wish to review it. Okay, implementing leverage registry plus V1 component version for bundle ordering. Is this the revision stuff?
Yeah, this is the release versions, and Rashmi has a PR off of here.
Okay.
So there are sub items here for the individual work items. She's working on the first of them right now.
Okay, great.
And I think we're close to merging that. So it's in the appropriate state.
Yeah, I think I saw that. Okay. Epic E2E test strategy. This looks like Ankita moved it. I don't know who owns it, but it apparently is mostly done. Create a test only catalog to. So Joe recently made changes to create on the fly catalogs for components, and that was merged, which I think effectively is this task right here.
Yeah, so if it's spinning up purpose-based catalogs rather than relying on the default images, that sounds like that achieves that goal.
Yeah, so let's take a look here. Pull request closed. Author Joe Lanford. Skip isolate tests with per scenario dynamic catalogs. So 2651.
So I'm inclined to say throw that on there. We need to check his work for docs. If you still have that PR open, we can see if they're in that.
Just gonna go grab the title here, even though it probably will. Just give me a second here to update this. I'm going to cross this off. How do you strike out here? Tilde, tilde?
I think double tilde before and after. But I don't know if it works over carriage returns, so you may have to do it per line.
No, it works. Just
Neat.
looks ugly, but it works. Actually, we'll take out the not that. Okay, I don't want to spend too much time with formatting. Close enough. Um, okay. Okay, so should we go look at this one here and say, no, I did that downstream. This is something I did downstream. What was that PR again? 2651. Where did I go? Okay, so that's now check marked, and then we have this one was just merged. Um, you were asking about documentation here. There is some docs. So we did do a design doc.
So I guess the question would be whether we need to have additional documentation here. Since this espouses a general test architecture and approach, I think it's appropriate for it to be hoisted out of the design doc and placed somewhere in our contributor documentation. So may I ask, since you have that board up there, can you just add a comment to that extent on the Epic? You already got it in needs docs, but that way we'll understand what kind of work we're looking to see happen as a follow-up for this issue to get it out of here.
I'm not sure it's contributing, but I'm just going to call it contributing.
It's close enough.
I don't
If
care.
it's
I want
off,
to
we'll
look.
understand.
I'm going to look at the files. Contributing. Okay. So now I think we are here. Add registry V1 bundle verification validation. I'm not sure the status here is pair is not here, so he can't comment on it. Last change was we had tags, and Kita mentioned this was implementing as of 2 weeks ago. Any comments? Going once, going twice? Gone, done. Okay, and needs docs, which tends to be our final state. Permissions validation pre-flight phase 1 follow-ups.
So I don't think there's any particular benefit to getting into this grab bag.
Yeah.
I was spending some time with Michael Peter, who's been our docs expert in this area, to try to figure out a general strategy for how we can keep this category moving instead of, as you say, being kind of the endpoint. And I have some. Together, we put kind of together a loose roadmap of how we would see that occurring, but we've both had a scarcity of available cycles to do more with it. So I still need to formalize that list and then put it on the backlog as a workable, and then we can talk in more detail.
Okay. I think that completes our review of the roadmap. Action items, host, create the next meeting agenda. Well, there's a template. the next host can do that. Identify the next host. That meeting is in 2 weeks, so we'll figure out. And I think our general rule is that it's the BDC. I don't know if it's the one going off or one coming on. For me, I'm the one going off. Upload recording to the channel. I shall do that. Jordan, ensure that resource over RFC includes blah, 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 blah. That was the top comment we put in there earlier. And that is it for action items. Is there anything anybody else would like to talk about? Okay. Thank you for attending our meeting.
Should we try to push it for release? I think your operator life cycle management one, the latest was in February.
I would like to get in, if we're going to do that, I'd like to get in the latest release of operator registry, which was created yesterday. So if you're talking about V0, I would like to pull that in. I'm hoping that Dependabot does that automatically very, very shortly, at which point we can create a release of V0. If you're talking about V1, I don't have any objections or timelines. So basically, I just want the latest operator registry to get into operator lifecycle manager before we cut a release. So, and I was going to keep an eye on that. Okay. And do that because we need that for other reasons. Okay. I'm going to stop the recording. Let me stop the share. Let me stop the recording.